Repeat what verbatim?
Verbatim. VERB.
So can we talk about this?
I
want to see if you can actually spell it.
Oh, okay. I can't spell it for anything. So.
Tim, how do you spell it?
Tim?
Okay, now he's
How
just
did he
fucking with me.
spell it?
Okay, what it? Who he?
I gotta call someone. Hold on. Is this one of my lifelines?
I think if you need a lifeline for a spelling bee, you
use it
fucking
once.
automatically lose.
All right. Yeah, what
like-
the hell are we talking about today?
I don't know. What were you gonna say?
I just really wanted to say, can we talk about this? Like, I'm just adding tension for no reason.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, can we talk about this? And you're like, what? You know?
Oh, you know what I'm talking
Life?
about. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, y'all better have something to talk about, or else I'm gonna have something to talk about.
Yeah, I have stuff to talk about.
Do
Okay,
it.
good.
Talk about it.
'Cause you don't want the stuff that I'm going to talk about.
It's going to be about him.
Well, what's the stuff you want to talk about?
I just told you. You can either proffer the stuff that you have to talk about now, and have a nice, calm night,
Calm. Yeah,
or you can relinquish that right.
Are we like competing for? It feels like every time we start a new episode, we're in a contest to see if we can make the worst opening. You know,
I mean,
because the last time, it wasn't the last time. It was one of the last times, but like it was like us just going back and forth, making some fucking stupid high pitched note. You remember that shit?
Yeah. That was
Actually
good.
don't.
Yep.
That was probably that was like on that currently that's on my Twitter as this is the worst intro.
Nice.
So maybe every episode is like this is the worst intro,
it's-
and it's a new clip from that episode.
I think it's a valid philosophy to try to have a good start, and the rest just carries it along. So
If this is a good start, then we're fucked.
The thing is, that's what everyone's trying to do. If that's the best way to go about it. So
Yeah.
obviously, people aren't trying the opposite. Have the worst start you can, and just pull it up out of the trenches.
Now, see, that's the optimistic way of looking at it. But what I'm saying is, what we're doing right now is the best one, and it's all downhill from here.
I'm so confused by our classification. Matt, can you clarify any of this for me?
I think the way the podcast goes, there was a beginning where podcasts were seen as like professional, and then now all podcasts are this postmodern, like all intros are ironic. Like no one does actually real intros.
You're totally well. You're at least right for our podcast. I don't think we've done a serious intro.
That's why
ever.
would we? What kind of format do we need?
We don't need a format. I hate podcasts with a format.
No, I don't want anything else format. It should just be equal amongst us.
Format.
That makes sense.
This is our podcast, not the format. Format is
True.
is 1/3 of the fucking voting rights and the money and the power and
Wow, we're equal.
yeah, we're all equal. Well, yeah.
Damn.
Oh, okay.
I guess
Well, look,
he wasn't there when we did that.
Man, I guess all I'm saying is pull your weight. Shit.
Damn.
You're fine. We're all fine. But no, it's like I hate podcasts that have a form. The podcasts I tend to listen to are ones that are basically just conversations that are in the background. So it's like white noise, or you fall asleep to it, or you pick up some things, or you feel like you're just hanging out with people or whatever. It doesn't feel like you're being like when I listen to podcasts that have a format, it feels so artificial. It feels like I'm being like
Feels like you're being
forced down my
taught
fucking
something.
throat. Yeah.
You just like junk food. Yeah.
So I make junk food.
Yeah, you want garbage all the time, in and out one ear, catching on what someone's saying 1 second, not giving a hell about
I like
next.
the white noise thing because when I was working at a base, they had a meeting, and what they did was play the radio super loud, so I can't hear into the meeting. So you're making
That's
it so
funny.
So you're saying like, oh, we need to have a format where we'll feel comfortable having a bass blast us, just so no secret information gets out.
Yeah.
Whether or not there's anything important on the podcast, just have three guys talking as a white noise to stop any secret.
I'm no
hearing.
expert, but I feel like turning up the jukebox loud doesn't meet the requirements for like protecting information. Like
I think that's pretty slim.
That's I would say I don't know about
loud,
that,
man.
son.
It
but
was loud.
But I will say that I like the idea of they're having like a meeting. They don't want anybody, it's a sensitive meeting, and they just turn our podcast up really, really loud.
That's what I'm saying. Just useless chatter.
Yeah.
Useless white noise.
It blends in with all the other discussions. So even if something comes through, you just hear, something missiles, something. Yeah, I don't know, role-playing games.
Role-playing games, yeah. I just went back to that
fucking
base, too.
nerd.
But I didn't have the white noise thing happen again.
No.
I actually got to explore a bit more on it too,
Oh,
with someone
what?
else.
Oh.
I was escorted everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he was
explorer's not a term you use while you're on a base, man.
Oh, you're on a military base. Yeah.
it's cool, man. I was always like,
Explore.
"Ooh." Well, at one point we were trying to figure something out, and he pulled the plans of the place. And I'm like, am I supposed to see this?
Oh yeah.
But it was like, yeah, if there's anything classified, it would have been obvious. But it was just the full plans of the building.
I love how
A very secret building. I had to be escorted for.
I love how
Yeah.
like the MPs would have something to say about you exploring quote unquote the base.
No, not
I'm just
that
gonna go
part.
explore. You're gonna what now, son? I don't
What
know
are you
about
doing
that.
here, sir? I'm an explorer.
Exploring.
He didn't follow me to the bathroom or anything. But yeah, I mean, he just was with me everywhere I went.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, just having this blast in the background and we're a secret meeting.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
In our secret meeting,
You should write that.
Right there?
right to that.
yeah,
What
write
do
it
you mean?
somewhere in a thing. Make your personal experience tangible.
What's
For
wrong?
others to
What's
be
wrong with the audio
conveyed.
median?
Well, it's not that exciting to be honest.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah. I guess.
Oh,
I guess
okay.
at the end of
He
the day
agrees.
is. I don't know. I was just saying. Yeah, as in this conversation is stupid. You guys need to shut the fuck up. But. No, I'm kidding. Oh, I'm sorry.
Wow.
I got a real energy at the table. I didn't mean it. I was joking.
What?
Are you sure that's not a ghost in the room?
What energy? What?
Yeah. Okay. No. Never
Damn,
mind.
dude.
I was right. No, I was right. Now let's continue. Let's actually do something now.
Oh, okay.
What's the topic?
Well, I mean, one of the things I can talk about is I ran D&D as originally intended. The text, the 1974, the 3 little brown booklets.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's pretty tight. It's a pretty good time.
How'd it go?
It went really, really well. I think here's a topic because I'll kind of segue into it, but it's like when I was running it as written for the group, you hear the thing all the time that like D&D inspired like a lot of like video games like roguelikes and MMOs and like the types of computer RPGs where it's like you're a whole party but you're navigating like you're one guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, or shit like that. And you hear that a lot as like a platitude. But I don't know if you really like, it's just like yeah, whatever. But when we were playing it, we were literally able to point to certain elements and be like, I already talked about the text, the pen and paper MMO sort of concept before, but it's like you can point at it and be like, oh, that is where these types of games got that from, or here's where this came from. And it's just really cool to see how much has come from not just D&D in general as like or role-playing games in general, but also just like all of these types of different games and media in general that came from it. And you can literally play it and trace it back to basically be those people who got those ideas from the game. Wow. You know what I mean? Like it's really fascinating. It feels academic in a way. Like you really are just like, stepping back and doing that. So
Yeah, you're talking like you just came back from a physical retreat that you just went to.
it felt like it. It felt like, dude. Every game I do is like a little retreat. Every game I'm in is like a little retreat.
Is it a retreat for you, Matt?
It's called escapism for a reason.
Do you escape?
Escape?
Yeah.
escape?
I don't know if I've ever seen Matt escape at a table.
No. I've already talked about it. You were gone at the time.
Oh,
It's
I
the
was?
first
When-
podcast we did.
When is the? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
It was. That was one of the lost episodes, huh?
Yeah. No.
No?
I don't know. It's lost. You posted it.
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
which
anyways.
one?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know the title. You have weird titles.
I do have really weird titles.
But I mean, I was gonna ask, how pulp is there any pulp in that kind of style of D&D?
Oh, all kinds. Like a lot of people think that because it's actually a pretty heroic game. Because I think the fact that people like you could die in one hit, basically, you can only be 3 classes. People, there's a lot of instances where people coming from the perspective of our current games and looking back, you don't get a full picture of the game. So, for example, when you're coming from D&D 5th edition and how characters work at that, how many hit points they have and stuff, and then you go back to OD&D, the fact that someone can die in one hit, it's like, oh, well, clearly this is a desperate game of survival and like death. But when you're actually putting it into practice, it's like, yeah, characters kind of come and go at the beginning, but it's a very heroic game. It's a very high fantasy game.
Mhm.
And So there's definitely pulp elements in that. Like the fact that once you become a hero, which is different for each class, for each of the 3 classes, once you're a 4th level fighter, from then on, per chainmail, every time you attack someone who's like lower than you, you attack them a number of times equal to your level.
Oh my
wow.
geez.
So if you're level 4 and you're attacking someone who's lower level, you attack them 4 times. And it like just, it escalates. It escalates when their magic users can create like any magic item. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's also like pulp elements of like, there's just dinosaurs that show up in the fucking tables. Dragons show up like a weird amount, like not a super high amount, but a strangely high amount. There's even like, oh yeah, here's how you just throw robots into your game. And shit.
That's
like
what
that.
I was wondering,
like,
is how pulp it got.
It's super high fantasy, and it's also super gonzo. Like there's all I wrote this and put it up on Plug and Plover, this like overview of the original D&D setting. And yeah, it's like there's all sorts of weird, crazy shit going on, and everybody's larger than life. And in the beginning, yeah, it might take a second to get things rolling, but it's like when you're just churning through these initial characters getting gold, that's the very early game.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have people who get to like level, 3, 4, they start getting up there, and then you start being able to make your own castle, and you put your shit down, and now you can, fucking collect taxes from villagers and use that money to buy magic items to go fight other kingdoms and dragons. And it gets the fact that everything's supposed to be randomly like generated, basically, like everything just gets out of control and really pulpy.
So you're not
really
speeding
fast.
it up. You're actually playing it as intended.
I'm playing it as intended.
So how fast do you get what does it take to get a castle and stuff?
So
how many sessions would that be?
You need to get to level 9. I mean, you could technically get a stronghold at any point, but to have a stronghold that has like influence in an area, you need to be 9th level. And I don't remember exactly, but I think that's like an average of 300,000 XP for each person, and you get gold for XP. So you're literally going into these dungeons, dragging out sacks full of gold. Getting up to level 9, I mean, it takes a while. Like it does take a decent amount of time, but it has this snowballing effect. And also because when you're doing dungeons, you're not doing it like you do in 5th edition, where it's like, oh, I designed this trap. We go in and we got through 5 rooms. That's all we have time for. You're literally going, all right, 10, 20, 30, right? 10, 20, 30. You're in a room. It's 30 by 30. You see this and this. What do? We do combat. Roll. Combat over. Okay, we're content. Like you're moving like at all times. The pace is really fast. If you had a good group and you really wanted to, I don't see why you couldn't, in like if you were going to do a marathon gaming session like we used to, I could see you getting to like level 4 or 5, and then you're already halfway there. And then you start having all of these spells, and then all of these retainers, and then it just gets, it just goes. So it is fast. The gameplay is fast. It's furious, and the intent is that everything the players do, it gets to the point where they're making the world. So like if you found a +3 magic sword in a dungeon, in any other text, it's like that just sort of ended up there.
Yeah.
But in the rule book, it's like that had to have been made at some point by a high level magic user, and characters can become high level magic users. And that implies this ecosystem where the world you have just made, players could have also made that. So it is this constant recycling of the world changing and developing and doing these things as players gain levels, retire, build fortresses, die, make things. The players have a direct impact on the world. But again, when you're reading back, it doesn't seem that way. It seems like the rules are only 80 pages. There's only 3 classes. Like, how can you possibly do that? But the whole game is engineered to do that. You see what I'm saying?
Where's the agency of the game then? It sounds like, it sounds like like a click. You're like clicking on something and having something happen. How much agency do players have at this point of D&D?
I mean, a lot. I mean, yeah, just the same you would have in any other RPG. I would say a little less in the sense that when you're fighting, you're not. It's like a mini game. When you're dungeon crawling, it's like a mini game. When you hit decision points, like okay, you hear monsters this far down the hall. What do you do? And maybe it's like, oh, okay, we're going to snuff the torch and try and sneak by or set something up. But most of the game, you are just kind of looping through these procedures until something happens. But when you're looping these procedures, it's like it's maintaining integrity throughout the whole world. Yeah. Like the time, time is tracked very meticulously, distance and scale is tracked very meticulously. So you use these procedures just to run the game world as it exists, and basically going as fast as you possibly can, and then things slow down when it's like, okay, well now that's actually something interesting. And that could be at any point. It could be somebody being like, hey, wait a second, we passed by this area and I'm looking at the map that our mapper's making. The geometry doesn't make sense. Let's go back down that hallway and search for secret doors. Okay, are we just going to roll for searching as you're passing by and going somewhere else? Or how are we going to search? We're doing anything specific. And now it's just become like you would see today. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, careful what questions you ask me. I can go on for fucking ever about this. This is occupying my brain.
That's fine with
forever.
me.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like I guess the agency thing was like you were saying, it's a computer. It's not what prevents it from just being a computer game than the experience of pen and paper.
Well, I think you could compare it more to like a roguelike in the sense that it's like when you play a roguelike, a lot of roguelikes are really chock full of content because they are so simple. Mm-hmm. And even though the game follows these specific procedures, by following them and doing the things, you kind of create a story as you go. Mm-hmm. Like, you're kind of like, oh, my character started with this and went into this room and this happened and they did this. So clearly it paints this picture of who they are. I guess it's more of like a Dwarf Fortress type of way to role play. It's definitely, to go on another endlessly recursive tangent.
Yeah.
The reason why I run 3LBB, which is the original books that came out, is once you add the fourth one, it completely changes how the game works. Like the Greyhawk Supplement 1, that it basically changes. That is a point in this timeline where from then on there's no going back. Like the D&D we ended up with now is in some ways a natural progression from that perspective. Mm-hmm. But if you don't use Greyhawk, then you're looking at it from the perspective of chainmail. You need to read and have chainmail, which is the war game that came before D&D, to run the game. So the game feels a lot more like a war game. And I don't think anybody who war games would really say they're having less of an experience. Yeah. Like, these battles are telling stories. Their armies are telling stories. This sequence of battles might be telling stories, or this unit's individual experience. And original D&D sort of has that same feel. Mm. It's like you aren't as much playing a role-playing game as you are playing a war game.
Yeah.
And I like how it feels. And I don't think, and the role-playing, the agency, everything you're talking about feels different, but it isn't. But that's why it all looks so different when you look at it from the perspective of like what we have today. Because everything looks weak, everything looks limited, everything looks, another example is like, even in like the OSR, it's like in BX, elves had the capabilities of both fighters and magic users. In OD&D, you choose, at the beginning of the adventure, you choose whether your elf is a fighter or a magic user. Mm. And when you look back, it's like, there's a lot of people who house rule 3LBB to say, oh, well, no, clearly they meant that elves are just both at the same time and act this way. It's like, no, you only think that because you're looking at that from a perspective of a later work. You're not reading from the text. You're not reading from the original stuff. And that's been really hard to train. It's been really hard to go from looking at this game from the perspective of 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, BX, like any other RPG I've played, and just look at it in a vacuum. It's taking a lot of retraining because it is different.
Yeah.
But it produces the same results. What I was going to try and get to was what, like to kind of unfold that, to go backwards. It's like,
you almost smacked Matt in the face.
I almost did.
I'm good.
I'm gesturing. I'm gesticulating.
I dodged.
You dodged.
Yeah.
What do you think is like the most important influence of D&D? Like, what is something that when you hear that, when you think about like what has D&D inspired, what has D&D done for like art or entertainment stuff? What's the thing that is like
most important influence from D&D?
From D&D, yeah. That's what I was going to try to get at earlier, and then you kept asking
the opposite
me,
is easier. It's like, what inspired D&D? Lord of the Rings.
Clearly, to the point where guys got sued over the whole Hobbit thing.
But what D&D inspired onward? I guess probably the most important thing would be modern video games. The entire framework for how modern video games, most video games that come out are RPGs of some kind.
Yeah.
Big games usually have a lot of money in there, have a lot of art design. They're wanting to tell a big story. And all that has roots with the early mechanics of how Dungeons and Dragons was built. And then how easily a lot of that is transcribable, like what you're talking about, into early computing. A lot of people creating complex action games and stuff. First-person shooters, something like Doom, took a lot longer than it took for someone to go, oh, why don't we just have a text-based choice system?
Right.
And then have a whole bunch of metrics that the computer takes advantage of based off the choices that happen.
That text-based choice system, which I think that's kind of like MUDs and stuff, were one of the first things that came out of like OD&D, and then on like Usenet stuff and IRC stuff. It's like that whole text-based adventure thing was like they figured out the agency that you have in these sort of games you could program.
Yep.
You could program that agency into something, and then it kind of,
I've seen a whole bunch of the old Gold Box DOS games for D&D show up now on like Steam. And they look, apparently they are notoriously difficult. And definitely quite limiting compared to all games like today. But I remember having a Gold Box that I bought from like a Goodwill.
Oh, do you remember which one it is?
I think it was one of the ones involving the Drow, probably with the Underdark.
Oh, that's awesome. Later the Spider Queen or some shit.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But it was, I had bought it like years after we were already using DVDs. No one was using CDs. They're not using the types of software that you needed, because for these older games it wasn't just the game that what you had there. It was also coming with a book for taking notes, for giving you ciphers. You had a CD book.
Yeah.
You had a CD for playing tracks for music while you went in different levels. The level would tell you what track to put on
I've
your disc
seen
player.
PDFs of manuals that are like that, and they're big.
Yeah.
Like it's like a couple hundred pages that if you didn't have that, you just couldn't play the game. And it was a cool companion because it's like it's on your side, so it's like it feels more like an adventure in the sense that this is something for you to solve and uncover.
It's very tactile.
It is very tactile, and I think a lot of the phasing out of video game manuals I think sucks.
Anyway. Well, now you have there's no need for them because the internet just writes the manual over time.
Yeah, within the first week.
So people don't make them like they used to for older games. I remember I had a game manual for Neverwinter Nights.
Yeah.
And I was way too young to be able to actually understand what the hell it was trying to tell me. So I never finished the game, but it did let me know what classes did what, and actually started teaching me the fundamentals of Dungeons and Dragons. I remember the first thing with playing D&D, because technically I did it online before I ever started playing D&D in person. I never played more than probably like an hour into the story, because I just kept finding things that required other classes to play them and going, oh, this is too cool. I got to try to do that. Being like, oh, I'll be the wizard and I can cast things, and then just dying constantly. And I'm like, why am I like this? Why is the wizard so bad?
Yeah.
Fine, I'll be the fighter. And I'm like, now I'm dying a different way. But why is this isn't fair? And having to learn over like a decade of play as I started to then play D&D on the side and go, oh, this is how these mechanics actually work.
Well, it's like trial by fire. Like you were literally pounding your head against a wall until you figured out what worked.
Yeah.
Aided by actual D&D experience, but
I mean, I've wanted to try to maybe look at those DOS games, because they have a built-in companion now. They include all those things
that's
in
cool.
an app that you're allowed to use.
Oh, an app?
It's basically a side app that you run with the game. So that's exciting.
Cool.
But it was games like those that then just sprouted throughout gaming how you set up a narrative framework for a number of hours.
Yeah. And that's why it's like, you're totally right, and that's why, and I like saying this just because of how controversial it sounds. I don't completely believe this, only like 80%, but it's like versions of D&D after the first one just aren't D&D. Because it's like, but like what I mean when I say that is, besides being as provocative as humanly possible, what I mean when I say that is that like if you want to experience the exact things we're talking about, like the feelings of opening the gold box and running with the manual and doing all this stuff, and feeling like, oh, this is how it felt to crawl a dungeon back then. These are the things that led to the things I love today and that have made me like who I am. Yeah. The only way you can do it is by basically running an emulator. It's you are, whether it's on the computer or in pen and paper. Like I am, in a way, even though I'm like emulating original D&D. I am like completely trying to engineer. I'm turning myself into an original D&D emulator because I want me and the people I play with to have that experience. I want them to feel like this is what it felt like. And once you have that experience, you go like, whoa, like I see the Matrix now. I see where all of this came from. I see how all of this happened. If this is what it felt like back then, no fucking wonder why D&D got so popular. Because wow, like if you were involved in this, you were just, you know what I mean? Like, and so the same thing with like these emulators, to the point, like they're emulating gold box games, but to the point where they're giving you a separate companion in the phone of the app. They're recognizing that it's not just the content. Yeah. It's not just the game. Well, because it's the context in which the game is played.
Apparently that's largely what's been available for years, because it's not hard to get these games, but you would only get just the game, which made it practically unplayable. Right. Once you got to any feasible part into your choice action line. So now having a actual app that's able to have all that functionality. That's cool. Exciting, because it feels like, ooh, that's like archaeology.
That is exciting. Something I'd been thinking about.
The games are like a couple bucks each.
Yeah, easy. Something I'd been thinking about, and this is something that came up from a long time ago. I wanted to do a Let's Play sort of thing. Call it At Wit's End, because that was literally in the first text-based game. There was a whole thing about how it's like, you are at wit's end. WITTS, like it's a guy's name. Yeah. Passages lead off in all directions. That's actually where the tagline for this podcast came from. Is that. Wow. So I wanted to call it At Wit's End, and I wanted to do Let's Plays of all of these old ass games.
See.
And it's like, that could be a lot of fun if we fired up some of these gold box games and stuff and just played through them.
Yeah, it could be. Oh, you know what? Playing through them as a group? That could be fun.
That would be. Man. Oh, yeah, that'd be a ton of fun. That'd be a ton of fun. I would be 100% down for that. It's like, because it is like, it is more than just me being pretentious and saying, oh, I just want to run original D&D, or it's more than me just being like, oh, tradition's the only way, like the old stuff is only good. It's like a genuine interest in being like, there was something clearly special with these games, because even though at the time, like 1% of the number of people who are into this stuff today were doing things like that. Yeah. It's like, it completely changed everything. It completely changed like media and entertainment and art, like forever. And so to try and get as close as possible to what did it feel like to be there when it started? Yeah. I'm not quite there yet, because I'm still trying to like get used to it, but it's like, you could see, the couple times I've run it, I could see everybody's eyes lighting up at the table. And we talked about it afterwards. It's like, oh my God. Like, and everybody thought of it in a different way. Everybody was playing this game and was like, oh my God. So this is where this thing that I like came from. I can see how it all connected, and it's like, it's really cool. It's more than nostalgia. It's nostalgia. Nostalgia.
Well, Jimmy will be opening up his old school throwback gaming vacation retreat sometime in the next 2 years. He will keep you updated.
Dude, I was joking. Was it with you guys I was joking? No. I was joking about how it's like, just have a bed and breakfast where it's like, I do the other things that I do, and then it's like, oh yeah, but you can add an optional package and I'll run D&D for you.
Yeah.
And then every time it's like, you sign you up for the D&D package? No.
Well, you know
All
that
right,
they
fine.
do
Fine.
they do
Yeah.
D&D in a castle. So you just do D&D in a dungeon.
I'll get. You know which castle I'm gonna get. You know which castle I'll get to run D&D.
Luigi. Luigi's got a castle.
Lots of yes, Luigi.
Luigi's castle? What the?
Yeah.
Wow.
Luigi's castle. Luigi's a king. What's wrong with that?
Luigi's king. You know, I feel like I just want to say really quick. I feel bad. I always feel bad when I take up a lot of bandwidth on this podcast, even though I could talk about it forever. And we were going back and forth, and you weren't saying anything, and you come right back in with the perfect thing to say. Like that is like the best.
Yeah.
That's the best fucking thing. Like just Luigi's castle, 100% like Luigi's castle, 110%.
Yeah.
It's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it.
Luigi.
Yes.
I play DOS games. I don't know if I have the patience for it, but
Well, I mean, that's
try.
why we're going to be drinking together and playing them.
Yeah.
oh, that's true.
Yeah, I
Like,
thought
woo,
like
two
playing
push two
it
again.
as a group and like deciding where your choices
That'd
are.
be way more interesting.
Because
Yeah,
it's
play by
way
yourself.
super easy. Or
I
at
couldn't
least
do it by myself.
No, I couldn't
You
either.
could probably do it while streaming. You could probably stream it and
You could stream it.
Can you computer run it though? Those graphics.
yeah.
That's big pixels.
That's actually a good point because you could use most of your computer at that point just to do the streaming because
Yeah.
the actual game won't take up that much at all.
yeah.
I was in a Discord server with some friends while one of our friends was playing through Myst, and he was streaming it, and basically everybody was playing Myst with him.
Yeah.
Like it was like 8 people, and we were all quote
wow,
unquote
nice.
playing Myst. Like there was a point where like somebody had an idea, and so somebody else was like writing stuff out in like a notepad, and they kept playing. And they
Much
come back
faster
in
game,
and
I
chime in.
assume.
Yeah.
It was faster, but it
Wait.
felt really cool.
Oh no, that's good because those kind of games are slow.
They
I don't
fucking
have
are.
patience with those games.
Me neither.
They're probably amazing though.
I mean, I gotta be selective
are.
about the ones I play, though. I gotta be selective because I know you love everything, Jimmy, but yeah, my cutoff is the gnome's got to be in the game, and if the gnome's not in it, then it's not D&D.
No gnomes. No fucking gnomes. Actually,
I
let me see if gnomes are in there. I don't. So here, actually, that leads me to an interesting point. There's a lot of weird idiosyncrasies in original D&D, and one of the things, straight up, one of the things Gygax and Arneson say, they're like, all right, pick your class: fighting man, magic user, cleric. That's it. Okay, you could choose to be a demi-human if you want. You can choose to be an elf, a dwarf, or a hobbit at the time. Elves and dwarves are really, really good, but they are naturally restricted. They are actually captain level.
Yep.
So they're good. Low-level adventures are really powerful, and then they kind of taper off. Whereas hobbits are just always shit. They're just subpar. But what I think is so funny about that is that when you think about Lord of the Rings, yeah, all the hobbits were shit. But the fact is, the fact that they decided to be adventurers anyway is exceptional. You know, the fact that Frodo and Sam, who could never be higher than 4th level fighting men, no matter how hard they tried for the original D&D rules, they still carried that fucking ring into Mordor. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think that's poetic.
I think
to
people
intentionally choose
underestimated
that.
them was the biggest part.
Yep, exactly. Everyone always underestimates the Hobbit. But so there is a line in here that they just wrote this shit in. I'm trying to load the fucking PDF. The Grey Harp single volume edition, by the way. That's what people want. That's that good shit. Other character types. There is no reason that players cannot be allowed to play as virtually anything, provided they begin relatively weak and work up to the top. I.e., a player wishing to be a dragon would have to begin as, let us say, a young one and progress upwards in the usual manner, steps being predetermined by the campaign referee. The first example they give is, you can just play
You
a
could be
fucking
a
dragon if you
Wow.
want, which is crazy to me. That's obviously not one that's used very much, but it's like, So you could take this whole milieu that you've created that's all like player generated stuff even further by being like, hey, that dragon who has a lair out there, what if a guy was playing the dragon? And now it's like, it's just gone like even higher, even crazier. And the fact that encourage. I mentioned this before, but it's like in the book it says 1 week in real life, 1 week passes in game time, and there's a lot of other things that make it to where it's assuming you're running for a lot of different people at a lot of different times in the same world. So now you have people who are playing dragons who are playing in this world that everyone else is playing in, and it's just like the scope of that is just absolutely insane. Like the possibilities are endless. So even if
It makes it much more interesting.
it makes it super interesting. So yes, you can play gnomes. It might not be written as a rule, but it says yes, you can play a gnome.
So first or basic edition says
a gnome would be a hobbit, but wouldn't be a shit.
I don't know. We'd have to. That's something you'd have to talk about.
Yeah,
you know.
And really, that's the great argument it kind of makes is there is no reason because of how it set up the framework of the loop of how play is supposed to go. I guess it's arguing there is no reason that you can't come up with some minor changes, however you want a house rule with a certain player that wants to play a certain way,
right?
As long as it still fits under the framework that you need to escalate up through.
Exactly. And I don't think, because I'm not house ruling.
Yeah.
I'm not. I am trying to run it as originally intended. And as it's originally intended, you aren't house ruling things. You're literally saying, yeah, you could just play this now. But you're totally right. It's like because the game is played the same. The reason why AD&D came out was because one, Gygax wanted to get Arneson off the cover so he can, TSR can make all the money. Two, most of the money that TSR was getting at the time was from tournaments. And AD&D, the whole point of that was so there was more cohesion at these tables, like the Living Greyhawk tables and shit like that. And like what that implies is everybody should be playing the game the same. And like you're saying, this framework, it's like, yes, when you're playing this game, it is going to be the same thing every time. And what that means is, one, it can be very fast, because if everybody knows how the game is played, then you can just chug through these procedures. Yeah. But two, you can tell when something truly special happens. You can tell when it's like, okay, now we got to slow down the game because we have been churning through these processes just to make the game happen to get to here. Everything has led us to this point, and there could be many points like this in the game, and it's like, we are at this point, now what do we do? And it almost adds this like it adds this gravity to things. It's not like in modern editions of D&D where those moments are all the time. Every turn is an opportunity for you to do something game-stopping and cool. Yeah. Those opportunities aren't constant, so when they happen, it's things that completely change the course of how the world works.
Yep.
And it's like, it's fucking insane.
Awesome.
Let alone if you're a dragon player and you reach that point where, you run into another party who wants, or maybe it's like, okay, now this is the place I'm choosing to start collecting my horde. And the referee, and in the rules, that all makes sense, build a stronghold, whatever. But then the referee's thinking like, well, what's going to happen if there's a dragon in the area? That's going to change a lot of things, isn't it? Technically, this dragon's a fighting man, which means he should get a barony because he's 9th level, because for some reason we decided to let them advance to 9th level. So it's like, but what does it look like if a dragon's a baron? Well, he's probably scaring the living shit out of them. Or maybe they're all worshiping him. Yeah. Or maybe... And so just by following these processes that are similar throughout all of these games, you are creating wholly unique worlds and experiences. And that is like something I think is somewhat lost when you have things like DM's Guild, where it's like literally like hundreds of thousands of different ways to play the game. When it's like there should be one robust way to play the game, just so the game fucking works, and then imagination is your limit. Yeah, from there. Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know after all that?
That's your mic drop?
Yeah, I don't know. That's my mic drop. I don't know.
What's that? Wow. I don't know. It sounds like you know.
That sounds like, yeah.
I don't know was the way of me undercutting myself just a little bit, so I don't sound like I'm completely like full of myself and self-assured, which I am, but I'm trying to make it sound like I'm not.
Yeah, it seems like your I don't know was undercutting your I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Hey, Matt, what is your favorite thing that D&D inspired? What is your favorite thing?
I wouldn't even know. It's like everywhere.
It is everywhere. It's all permeating. Everything is Gygax.
I was trying to think of
Gygax is
some
all.
obscure history thing that had to have happened because of D&D, but I can't think of anything. Like some kind of war.
Mazes and monsters.
Like some kind of war.
Mazes and
The
monsters.
Satanic Panic, if you're thinking of something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that was a real direct. Something like some kind of dominoes, where if not because of D&D, like a lot of people would be much better off.
Oh, better. I thought you were gonna say like because of D&D wars, and it's like no, because of D&D wars started.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the other thing I was thinking about, like maybe I think it's not true, but maybe the way we see our own lives have changed because of D&D. Because everyone has their own story, and D&D everyone has like like you said, there's with this modern D&D is like there's always big humps of happening, and you're always going above and beyond things. But like everyone's always had that. D&D really didn't change that.
I feel like there is an empowerment though, because there's a I have a friend who has a friend who's right. What?
No, just look at where
That was a really intense look. That was a really twisted.
what does he want?
expression.
What?
I'm just stuck on you saying humps happening.
Home's happening?
Humps.
Humps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said modern D&D, it's all a lot of humps happening.
lot of
We were
humps.
just talking about that. Like, yeah, everything's
lot
gonna
of
be
ups
the
and downs, a lot
world
of humps.
changing
A lot of humps.
in every
A
second.
lot of humps. What am I saying? Oh, it's like I have a friend who has a friend who's doing like who their masters or PhD in psychology is about like therapeutic uses for D&D.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of it is that where it's like you're able to have agency that you might not otherwise have, or work out problems of like conflict or like change, or like being at a disadvantage, or going up from there. Like you're able to have a lot of experiences through a game, a lot of socializing experiences that you might not otherwise have. So it is like I think our lives have changed with games in general, because you can take agency in situations you might not otherwise have it, and work out problems you might not otherwise have the ability to do it, and that wouldn't have happened without D&D.
Yeah. I guess the other idea would be the way that fiction's changed pretty hard, and obviously it's pretty direct. But like, I don't know, like old pulp stuff was like, I don't know, maybe it's just because of the nuclear wars at the time. Well, even then, it's the 50s, where like it was pretty dark. Like the whole the dying Earth stuff was just like all. Well, yeah, I guess after World War II, where it's like
that shit was dark as
everything sucks. But like, there was a different way characters were made at the time. Just there's a whole different feel from like reading Dying Earth to modern fiction. Because it's, I don't know, I'm not a big fiction person, but it seems like D&D has changed it to, I guess, almost the same thing as the Hero 1,000 Faces, where old pulp fiction obviously kept hitting those beats, but it's just in a whole different way. Like characters and things think much differently. Obviously, it's just cultural. Obviously, I'm just arguing about a cultural thing. But modern fiction is heavily D&D based.
Well, you're right. Like, I think original D&D, a lot of people say it is Tolkienian, and I do think that, but I think it ends up feeling very Conan. It ends up feeling very Robert E. Howard, because these pulps you're talking about, like you're talking about Jack Vance with Dying Earth, you're talking about Robert E. Howard with Conan, you're talking about like noir and like pulps noir, like that. It's that all happened within the same general time span.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And and so did D&D. D&D came out also kind of at the tail end of that general time span. So it's all clearly very influenced by that. And D&D went on to influence. It's the same reason I say once you start with Supplement 1, the game changes forever. The Supplement 1 introduced thieves for the first time. It introduced variable weapon damage, but it did all of these other things that it's like it completely changed the way D&D looks and feels. So I feel like maybe what happened is the way that D&D has inspired these things looks different than the things that inspired it, just by virtue of the people who got a hold of it and did the things they did with it at the time they did.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But yeah, like we wouldn't have a lot of that without it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just the way we do storytelling obviously will change culturally over time. But yeah, maybe it's just like the way group dynamics are way more D&D like than they used to be. But I don't know. I don't know enough about that sphere. because now, I mean, it's also just literary theory too. Like like the case you studied, which is like, and I've studied a little bit of that, which is just like you have. Every character in a book is obviously there for a reason. You don't have if they're not there, if there's not anything important happening to the character, you don't put them in the book. But like, I mean, some of the old pulp stuff, they obviously still had a reason, but sometimes they're just so throwaway.
Yeah,
like women. Anytime there's pulp fiction.
literally anytime. That was the biggest
there's
culprit.
pulp fiction.
Yeah.
They could even Dying Earth had some like they would have agency. But there was still like the prejudice.
Well, that's funny
because
because Dying Earth did, I feel like, a better job, at least comparatively, with its female
there's
protagonists.
Two stories that are great.
But they're also always running around naked, and Jack Vance is still like describing their breasts all the time.
Oh
like,
yeah,
it's like, well, okay,
totally. I would agree with that.
That cancels it out.
I think it was two good stories. I mean, one that hated
stories.
everything. No, I meant the women
that
one.
story.
I meant the women ones.
There's
only two in that whole first book.
Or is it in the first book? Or
well,
is there
one
more,
is about
or is it just those two in the entire like.
Oh,
cycle?
I haven't read the other 3 books. I've wanted to.
I do too, but I really liked that whole story where she just fucking hates everything.
That's what I'm saying. The woman who hates
everything,
anything beautiful, she hates,
and then
she learns she learns to actually love. Later.
Because it's interesting in that like the theme I got from that whole story is literally like Earth is ugly and real life is ugly and wild and unpredictable and all of this stuff, and she was able to find beauty in it. It's almost like this perfection, this simulacrum, this like idealized world. She just had this rejection to.
Yeah.
And then she went into the real world and was like, yeah, a lot of things suck here, but I'm also glad that there's a freedom with it. There's beauty in it.
Yeah, because exactly. Pendulum's area was like all perfect. Literally, there was nothing wrong. It is a Garden of Eden. And she was like, this place sucks. There's nothing to do.
Yeah,
I'm just frolicking, but I hate frolicking.
Well, it's also ugly. Like something that was made to be completely perfect and unchanging was ugly to her.
Yeah, yeah. And then she got to Dying Earth and she's like, whoa, is that a corpse over there?
Yeah.
Whoa. Hey, is that guy trying to kill those?
Body.
Yeah, is that guy trying to kill people right there? Whoa.
Fucking sick.
I think like as soon as she gets to the place, there's some guy trying to kill a couple.
Yeah, and that was a great story and a great character, but you did kind of have to. Well, I don't remember how much I don't remember how much bounced boobily stuff there was in there. You know what I mean?
If there was, I didn't notice it too much.
I honestly
just
don't
enough
remember.
for marketing.
I would imagine you'd have
for the front cover.
Yeah.
Well, it was from
The
Weird
story's
Science.
being marketed to like
It was, I
young
think it
kids in the 50s. You got to throw that in to keep them up, so they're willing to finish the book and buy another.
H.P. Lovecraft and Howard all had that style.
You're totally right. I like the pulp covers and stuff where everybody's fucking naked. And that's usually like sword and sorcery shit.
Yeah.
Because it's literally like you
Frank
have
Frazetta.
nothing but
I was tempted.
Yes.
I was tempted to pick up some pulp when we were wanting to do the Moon Man.
Yeah.
And they're like, there's a used bookstore that has like tons of pulp. I mean, I think a lot of people do, but this one has a 1 second like $1 or something. But it's just like really short. Probably read in like 2 hours pulp.
Oh, cool.
At the time.
I like that.
And I was just like, I don't know which one to pick. There's like 400 of them.
That's when you start grabbing random ones.
I know.
Throw
I was
down
like,
$10
I'm
and
tempted
based
to get
off
them.
cover alone, because that's how they sold them back in the day, was by cover.
Yeah,
So
I was
like,
tempted to get pulp, but like I
I'd be
probably
down to
wouldn't have
go.
read it fast enough. Yeah, I
That'd be
go
great.
around.
Sounds like we need to go and buy some pulp magazines and play
and
some
then play DOS. Yeah. Wow,
That
we're
sounds
just hitting the
great.
That
nostalgia
sounds,
train.
yeah.
That sounds.
It's not even.
Do we need to get some old
I
school
do love
throwback
pulp.
soda too?
Oh hell, dude.
Oh, yeah.
No. Whole part, like I was talking about, like I want to actually like host and throw a party and shit like that,
Do it,
because I'm a terrible host. Let's fucking do that.
Do it.
I want to do that. That would be.
It's relaxing too, you
That'd
know.
kick
There's not
ass.
like be like, oh, what kind of party? You know, we get a lot to do. It's like pretty simple stuff. It's a
I don't
relaxed
even.
party.
I don't
Yeah.
even know what the first game's gonna give you to start with, like what its framework is.
It's gonna be bad.
Right?
It's gonna be great.
Does it even start you with a character, or are you making decisions and then it's just like, okay, this is your stat now?
Well,
Yeah.
we get to figure that out together.
Yeah.
And the lucky thing is, between pulp books for like and between like the video games and stuff, the most expensive thing would be the throwback soda.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
The best thing is if it does allow you to build your own party and we each build a different character as we go through.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
That'd be the best.
Absolutely. It's interesting that you said, by the way, because you said, it's nostalgic, but it's kind of not. Because it's not. Because none of us were fucking alive for
that's
this.
what I was saying.
Yeah.
I mean, Casey had the most connection to that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't super on a computer at the time.
No.
So like,
Well, no, I'm talking about like the 60s, 70s. Like,
right.
wait, none of us
With the
were
pulp
fucking
stuff for
alive.
sure, but even the
Yeah.
DOS stuff, I wasn't really around.
Oh,
for that
I wasn't.
either.
I was around, but I wasn't like big brained enough to start playing DOS games yet.
Oh yeah,
You know, like I couldn't figure that.
that
shit
was
out.
still at the time really phasing out hard.
It was.
Just
I remember
the technology in general.
Yeah, I remember Windows 95. That's like the earliest memory
Totally,
that I have. Yeah,
I do remember
of
that too.
that.
Yeah,
But like, but it's not nostalgia. Just like, some of my favorite metal, some of the best heavy metal. It's like new wave British heavy metal, or like early like American like heavy metal and shit like that from the 70s, 80s, from that time period too.
yeah.
You know, like all the metal from back then. It's fucking amazing,
Dude, funk
And
funk is crazy at the time too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
There's
was.
a billion albums, and sometimes they all sound the same, but there's a billion I'll never go through.
Yeah,
I find a new
yeah.
one every week on YouTube.
Which is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You're never gonna run out. But
dude, don't.
it's not nostalgia for us. Like I go and listen to Manila Road, best heavy metal band of all time, like bar none, hands down. It's like fucking. It's not because I'm going back. It goes like, I remember it. I remember
True.
Manila Road. It's because I'm like, where did Eternal Champion come from? How'd we get here? And you go all the way back. You're like, I see what they saw.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what people get really interested in. Yeah.
We should. This sounds.
Yeah,
That's like a lot of
like
music-
when we went to see George Clinton in Parliament Funkadelic.
Dude, I never
And-
listened to him very much.
But
at all.
yeah, but it was like
That was great.
It was like, oh,
That's
this is awesome, and we're like, yeah. Now I know what it's like to have been that deaf back then.
Dude, that was a weird thing we did, because we don't do that ever. We don't ever do that. It was like Casey brought it up, and then in the middle of like a Tuesday, he was like, "Okay, do we want to drive 5 hours to go see the probably the last show he's ever gonna do?"
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, "Yeah, sure." And then I just never do that. I just don't go to much concerts, but it was great.
That's good.
That was awesome. Yeah, it was just like, I mean, like, what was it? It wasn't 5, but it was like 3 hour drive.
Yeah. It was,
Where
And
was
it was a free show for George Clinton.
where was it?
Whoa.
Yeah, it was like, hey, this is a farewell tour, and yeah, you could tell he's getting old. You could tell at the 80s or something, he would have been never sitting down.
Yep.
But I mean, at his age, yeah, it was great.
And it was a small
A lot of
venue
people didn't
too.
give a shit,
It was
though.
an
I was so
outside.
mad.
It was like an outside small because it was up in the mountains.
Good. It was.
Yeah.
It
Next to a
sounds-
lake, remember?
Yeah.
Right next
It
to a
sounds
lake.
like it was intimate and beautiful.
Yeah.
Some
And-
people are
and-
rude
and
then,
loud.
but yeah, people weren't really
Hell
getting
yeah.
into it.
No. Yes. A lot
That's
of
what's
people were
sad.
like,
I was like, this is great. Like at the beginning, I was like, yeah, this is great. And
That's
then people are
just
just
some classic
standing
shit.
there.
That's some classic.
It was free,
shit.
so
Like,
people didn't appreciate
Oh,
it.
that
But I was like,
fucking
dude, it's
sucks.
George Clinton.
But-
It's like, come on.
Because there were people like you guys who were fucking into it. I'm
Yeah.
sure
Oh,
because
yeah.
they came for the same.
There
reason.
was a couple people around us.
That's
and
who you
then, and
play
then
for,
Casey
you know?
kept getting distracted by someone tripping really hard.
Yep. Yeah, she was not having a good day.
Oh no!
I was in front of him. Always having a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, I usually have a good time at concerts. I don't get like. I'm just like.
I was like,
I'm
well,
100%
this is
there.
happy
I live and
music.
breathe
Wow,
shows.
everyone's
Yeah.
feeling happy. Why is this woman screaming in front of me?
And then there's like, there's some weird people in front. I'm like, dude, chill out.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
just not like. I don't know what was wrong with
Man,
them.
that was good.
It was good though.
It felt.
I feel
Microphone
the
edition
same way
was-
when I saw Judas Priest last month. It was
Yeah.
like, oh my god, I have to see Priest. I'll do fucking anything to see him. And then went and like Rob Halford is. You could definitely tell. It's like, yeah, this is probably one of his last tours because like, goddamn,
the voice is like real old sounding.
and like, well, so I think part of it is that we are in like Colorado and the altitude's
That's the
fucked.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the thing is like during the whole time, I mean, he couldn't like sustain a lot of notes like he could or hit some things that he could. But then I guess he went backstage and did a bump of coke because when he came out and did like fucking, breaking the law, fucking oh my god, I don't remember what was always in the encore, but like the Living After Midnight and shit. Like he was like a brand new guy, and I'm pretty sure I'm like, yeah, he was. I feel like he was medicinally enabled to finish this last set. But I don't know. I've been trying to look for videos of that people have been doing of his other sets on this tour, because maybe he's totally fine. It's just Colorado, which does kick everybody's asses.
Yeah.
So.
That's what I've heard. Yeah,
That's the reason it's best to see people here, because you can see them at their lowest.
I
They're
know.
worst.
I don't go to many concerts, but how often do people complain about? Like, is it every show people complain about Colorado?
It happens pretty often.
I would figure it's almost
Yeah.
every show for someone not in Colorado.
I don't see many shows where that would be in like someone's stage presence, like complaining wouldn't really make sense for them to do.
Okay.
But every time I have seen a band where it makes sense that they would do that, they do.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's pretty bad.
I feel like almost every of them, they have to be, because they're just like, woo!
Holy shit.
Except
Yeah.
Tech Nine. He's like, woo!
He's gonna be
I'm over here.
he's gonna be at the amphitheater.
Yes. He's always
Because when we talked
comes every year. He's
And
here.
Calico two
Yeah,
weeks
he
2
is.
weeks later.
Of course.
Of course, Calico 2 weeks later.
There's some bands that
Because when we talk about Panopticon, I'm like, man, I really want to do
Oh.
more concerts.
dude.
I
yes.
really gotta try, because I just won't. Like, I just don't live
Sure.
and breathe it. So I gotta try.
Dude, like I have I'll send you the link to the metal calendar that me and my friends put together of all the
Yeah.
shows we're going to and shit. You have to come see Panopticon and Holder.
I gotta listen to their old stuff too, because that's just that new album. I heard about Panopticon from some random thing, and I was like, okay. And then I'm like, yeah, it's good.
It's fucking
And I
great.
gotta get like, yeah, good at your
My boyfriend's going, Red's going, cause that show is happening on Pride weekend. So I'm gonna go on Pride weekend. I'm gonna be at Pride, all dressed up, all doing my thing and stuff, and then immediately be like, sorry guys, I gotta dip out and go to a black metal show.
That's the most pride thing ever, actually.
That's a curb moment.
It is a curve moment. It's gonna be fucking tight. You have to go. You really do.
I know.
You're gonna love it.
Yeah, I really want to just get it and commit.
Yeah.
I love music, man. But there's bands that come to Colorado all the time, and they definitely don't complain. Like Dragon Force never does, or like it's funny because Dragon Force, I love Dragon Force, dude. Like I've listened to them since like Inhuman Rampage and like their Guitar Hero days and stuff, and like I've been listening to them ever since. I've seen them live twice now. First time I saw them live, it was the last show I saw before the pandemic that I probably got COVID at. And then me and my sister both did. And then just a couple weeks ago, they came back and they did basically the same set. And they're like, yeah, it's weird to be back, like literally kind of where it all started.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we come full circle.
Yeah, it
you
did
know?
start here, yeah.
And that felt really good. That was so there's a lot of, you could tell the bands that it's like the ones who would be making a comment of like, phew, the altitude, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even the ones who would maybe make a joke like that, they don't, because they fucking love playing here. Because our music scene is just incredible.
Yeah,
Nice.
because I know we have big jazz and blues too. I just haven't gotten to
Yeah.
it either.
Oh, we should do
There's Blues in the Bridge. I hear about it.
that's what I was gonna say. We should fucking do that.
NPR always talks about Blues under the Bridge.
I usually don't do our local pride because I do it, but it like sucks because it's like owned by a bar I don't like, and there's all this other shit, but it's like every time we go over that bridge, they're having Blues Under the Bridge. And I hear that and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I was fucking there. So I'd be down. Like I haven't been.
I hear
I've been
about it
wanting
every
to
year,
go.
but yeah. I always hear about it. There's tons of other local music stuff that never happens. Like sometimes I watch like the orchestra. They had a good one recently about it was the same thing. It was like movie stuff, but I forgot the classical person it was doing it on. It was good.
We also got like Black Sheep. We got like Dark Descent Records, which is a pretty awesome death metal labels based out of here. Like there's like
I've been trying to find
a lot of
local
good shit
stuff on
down here.
Bandcamp about like local stuff. You saw that one thing?
Oh.
I know we keep moving into music, but I looked up an indigenous black metal.
And
it was
fucking
Black Braid was the one I found.
Oh, Black Braid. Okay. The other one I was thinking of Pan American Native Front or whatever they're called.
I don't know if I heard.
I forget. That's the other one that Patrick had found them recently. Yeah, there's like indigenous black metal is fucking nuts. There's only like there's only a few bands that I know of at least, but they go. It's almost like it's kind of war metal-y.
Huh.
Yeah,
Sense,
because the drums,
it's like it's going.
because
That sounds cool.
the rhythm, you can like you're a little bit. It's like it's just black metal, but then you get that like Native American rhythm. Because there's a Navajo one specifically I remember seeing on there, but then I don't know what Black Braid is from.
I don't remember either. I know I haven't listened to Black Braid, but I've seen the name float around. And I think one of their albums popped by on my feed.
I just have one song
didn't-
for them, but I
didn't
might
look.
get their albums.
I'll have to check it out. I love music, man. I could talk about it forever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why don't you marry
Break.
it?
I will maybe.
Do a break.
Yeah, we can do a break. I'm down to do another one.